welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley, and today I'm going to be completing my Goodreads challenge and reading my 100th book of the year. I feel like this could end up being something that I try to make a perfect decision on and really overanalyze what should be my 100th book of the year, but I've decided to just make it really simple and just pick something off my shelf that also has an audiobook because it is also a work day, and so I'm gonna need an audiobook so that I can read a lot of it really quickly so I can hurry up and meet this goal. So what we're gonna be reading is Cult Classic by Sloane Crossley as my 100th book of the year. This book has been on my radar for a very long time. It just looked really interesting to me. I love the title, I love the cover, I thought the synopsis sounded really interesting. It's been so long since I've read the synopsis of this book that I can't even remember exactly what it's about, which is the way that I like to go into my books. I like to read a synopsis, get intrigued by it, forget entirely what it's about, and then go into the book and just have a good time with it. I remember it being something about a woman running into her ex-boyfriends, but that's about all I remember. I think it's a story about life. I don't know, but it seems like a little bit of a fun one that's a little bit outside of the realm of what I usually read. I don't want to put too much pressure on it and try to expect it to be this 5-star read as my 100th book of the year. I just want to have a fun time with it, complete my Goodreads challenge, and take you along with me. If for some reason you don't know, a Goodreads challenge just means a goal that you set at the beginning of the year for how many books you want to read in the year, and this year I set the goal of 100, so I'm just completing my challenge for how many books I want to read in the year. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get into this book. I need to get ready for the day, so I'm going to pop the audiobook on, make breakfast, get dressed, do my makeup, and all of that stuff. And once I figure out exactly what this book is more about, I will let you know the general synopsis of it.
There, one night secret turns on Clive's ocean floor. It was a Friday afternoon. Thought he had an aunt who had hired an exorcist once. So I had a poster oven that would turn itself on in the middle of the night.
Into Quote Classic now, and it's a relatively short book, so I thought this was a good place to update. I don't know where the 30% mark is in the book. I've been trying to catch up every now and then, but I haven't updated my bookmark in a while. But on Scribd it says I'm 30% in. This was an interesting choice for me, I think. I'm glad I didn't put pressure on it to try to make it this 5-star read for my 100th read of the year, because this will not be a 5-star for me, I'm sure. It's one of those books that starts and then just sets it up, and that's all the book's going to be, I feel like. I don't know, it's just pretty much about relationships, dating culture, and that sort of thing. I looked back at the synopsis of this to see what it was pitched as, because it's kind of hard to explain what it is. And the synopsis, which is super long, but some of the highlights say that this is a comic mystery about love, memory, and mind control. So I don't know what the mind control aspect of this is and if something's going to come into it. I mean, it is called Cult Classic, so there may be some kind of culty aspect coming into it. But what the synopsis essentially says is you're following this woman, Lola, who is 37, I think is her age. She's in her upper 30s, and she's having dinner with former colleagues. She ducks out to go buy cigarettes, and on the way back she runs into a former boyfriend, which is how the book begins. And then she runs into another and another. So she just keeps running into these exes in her life. This is a very New York City book, if you know what I mean. You know, when you read a book set in New York City following usually someone in their 20s and it's just very New York. This is a very New York book, but she is in her upper 30s and she's reflecting back a lot on her 20s because she's dated a lot of these guys throughout then. It says, nothing is quite what it seems as the city becomes awash with ghosts of heartbreaks past. What would normally pass for a coincidence becomes something far stranger as Lola must contend not only with the viability of her current relationship, but the fact that both her best friend and former boss might have an acutely unhealthy investment in the outcome. So maybe something weird's gonna happen. Maybe there'll be some kind of twist with that. But what you're following is this woman, Lola, and she's in a relationship right now with this guy that she calls Boots. And it's pretty much one of those scenarios where she feels like she might be settling with him. She's kind of questioning if she's settling with him. She questions what it means to settle. Does that make it love or does that make it not love? Because it's a choice. And she's just at this point in her life where she's reflecting on past loves and what is love and what are relationships and what is dating and how do you know you're with the right person? Can you ever know? And all of these questions about life and love and relationships. So this feels pretty much like that's what's going to be, but now I am kind of wondering if something else is going to happen, because the final part of the synopsis describes this as suspenseful and funny. It's a new novel combining the breathtaking twists and turns of a psychological thriller with the will she won't she of a romantic comedy. It's a wry romantic fantasy that is equal parts page turner and poignant portrayal of alienation. And then the genres that it's bucketed under are fiction, mystery, contemporary, mystery thriller, thriller, romance, literary fiction, fantasy. So this is just kind of like a weird random sort of thing that I stumbled upon. I don't really know what I'm getting myself into here. My initial reaction, I do like the writing style of this. I like the voice. It has a very prominent voice in the way that this writer writes. So I like that when a character has a very distinct voice. This is also, because it's such a New York book and because of the voice, I was like, I bet this person works in online media. And then I looked back in the back, and the author is a contributing editor at Vanity Fair, and she lives in New York, which is exactly what I would have expected from this book. It just feels like someone who's been in that industry and someone who has spent a lot of time living in the city. But I'm not having a bad time. I'm just not having the most amazing time. I'm glad I'm listening to it on audio because it's just not the most compelling thing to me. It's not the most compelling hook. Even 30% in, I'm like kind of curious to see where it goes, but it's very stream of consciousness like in this narrator's head as you're just going back on all these past relationships, and she keeps running into these exes and just having all these conversations with these exes and these people in New York, and they're just having all these conversations about life. I kind of keep convincing myself while I'm listening to it that it's sort of like listening to a memoir, because the voice of the narrator is really good and it does kind of convince you that it's just someone talking about their life and their experiences, which is kind of fun. But yeah, I'm gonna keep listening to this one. It's almost lunchtime. I have a lot of meetings in the afternoon, so I'm gonna listen to this a little bit more, then have some lunch, and then I'll have a lot of meetings, so I won't be able to listen to it, and then I'll pick it back up at the end of the day. All right, hello again. I am sitting at my counter waiting for my lunch to be made. I thought I had leftovers from dinner last night, but I'm pretty sure my partner took them to work and didn't leave me any leftovers. Like, how rude. So now I'm having to make this little pizza, but it's actually a really good one. It's the pizzas that come with HelloFresh. You can get them as like a lunch edition, and it's pesto mozzarella, and it's so good, and I put some honey on it and it is amazing. So it all worked out for the best, I guess. And I'm also snacking on some watermelon because I was hungry. But I've been listening to more of this as I've been getting lunch ready, and I am a little bit over the halfway point. I'm probably like 55% through the book right now, and it literally changed like the second after my last update. Like 2 pages later, something completely different was introduced. The cult element really came to life in the story, and it did surprise me. So everything I was saying about it seeming really straightforward and just being about relationships, it is about relationships, but there's this parallel thing going on that explains why she keeps running into her exes, and it is a very interesting idea. I don't know if I'm loving the full execution of it. It just feels really slow for some reason. I don't really know what I would want to be happening or what could be happening to make it more interesting to me, but it's just not particularly interesting. I feel like if it really went that next level in what's going on in the book, which I'm not going to say because I don't want to spoil it for you, then it could be more interesting. But because it's sort of like toes the line of genre in that it's not a mystery, it's not a thriller, it's not dystopian, it's not speculative, it's not magic, but it's like sort of all of these things. I feel like I wish I would have just picked one thing and gone really deep with it, and then we could have explored things a little bit more. But I do like that something new is introduced. I think the premise of this is really cool. The concept of it's very interesting, and it does open a lot of interesting conversations about just contemporary dating. And it also opens conversations about susceptibility of the mind. And that's all I'll say about that portion of it. But yeah, that's about it. As a midway update, I'm gonna keep reading it throughout the day when I get time, and I'll probably check in with you maybe one more time before I finish it because it's going pretty quickly. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say was I did look at Goodreads reviews of this as I was trying to figure out where this element was going to go in the story, and this book is not rated well. I think the average rating was like a 3.4. Yeah, the average rating is a 3.4 with over 6,000 ratings. So people are not really liking this. I was looking at reviews and it seems kind of similar to what I'm saying. Like the top review I see says I wanted to love this, but it never fully grabbed me, which I'm sort of feeling. There are some positive reviews mixed in here as well, but the consensus seems to be it's a little bit messy. There's a little bit too much going on. So yeah, I don't know. I'll keep reading, let you know how it goes. Hello, the workday is done. I have not read much more of the book, just a little bit more on audiobook, but I thought before the video ended it would be fun to do a little retrospective on my Goodreads goal. Since we're completing the Goodreads goal, it seems like a good time to talk about my Goodreads goal. Additionally, let's take a moment to thank this emotional support water bottle, which truly gets me through my days. I never understood the emotional support water bottle community until I got an emotional support water bottle. Technically it's a cup, an emotional support water cup, but bottle sounds better. I love this with my whole life. It is with me at all times and it has improved my life drastically. I don't know what the brand is. If you're curious, there's an S and an M, but I'll figure it out. I'll put it on the screen. It is dishwasher safe. It keeps your drinks cold for a very long time. It is just everything I ever wanted. So just wanted to say a moment of appreciation to this cup. Like I said, my Goodreads goal this year is 100 books, which is what we're completing today, but it hasn't always been 100 books. I have been using Goodreads since 2015. So we can go back as far as 2015 to talk about my goals and how many books I actually read. So in 2015, I set the goal to read 50 books. That was a big height of my reading. I've been a reader my entire life. Some years I read less than others. 2015 was a big year for me in reading. Set the goal for 50 books, actually ended up reading 59 books. So the next year, 2016, I said, let me bump that up and set the goal for 75 books, but I only read 44 books because I was in college and I was busy, and so I just didn't read as much. So in 2017, I set the goal for 35 books. I said, let's lower it back down. It'll be more reasonable, but I decided to switch my major and become an English major, and I started reading a lot more for school, and so I just didn't have a lot of time to read for fun, and I actually only read 27 books that year. Then in 2018, I decided to lower it again. I was trying to go even easier on myself. I set the goal for 25 books, but I only ended up reading 21. I really thought it was gonna get better by now, but it doesn't. 2019, that was the year that I fully went out into the real world and started a full-time corporate career. So I set the goal for 25 books and I was just too busy, didn't do that, and only read 22 books. But then 2020 came along, and in 2020, as I'm sure everyone is aware, we also were greeted with the coronavirus pandemic, which left a lot of people in lockdown. People were spending a lot more time at home. I was spending a lot more time at home. Pretty much all my time was spent at home. I shifted from working in the office to working from home and just stayed home all the time. So that year, I think I started by setting a goal of 50 books that year, and then I was just reading so much after the pandemic, because who could have predicted that in January? I mean, the scientists who did predict it, but like I didn't predict that my life would look the way it looked. Then when I had a lot more time to read, I must have bumped it up. So I set the goal for 100 books for the very first time in 2020, and I absolutely blew that out of the water, and I read 142 books in 2020. I also was reading a lot of graphic novels and reading novellas for the first time, so I was reading a lot of shorter things too. I probably read the most graphic novels or comics in a year that I ever read in 2020, because I really got into those that year. So that probably accounted for like 30 to 40 of those. So I really read about 100 novels probably in that year. And that was just a wild year for my reading and my life and everyone's lives. So then 2021 came along, and I was kind of anticipating the year to look a little bit different. I thought things would probably start opening up. I would probably read a little bit less. And I also was going through this phase of my reading where I didn't want to pressure myself to try to read for the sake of reading quantity. I wanted to discover more about my reading tastes, read more books that I was actually enjoying. And I also just got kind of annoyed by the whole idea of the goal. I feel like I was spending a lot more time on Instagram, like Bookstagram in 2020, and I didn't love the community that was there, and just the way that there was just a lot of pressure around reading, and I didn't like it. So that is what informed me to set my goal in 2021 to read 50 books, less than a book a week. That's just a number to hit for the sake of doing it for funsies. And I ended up reading a lot more than that. In 2021, I read 106 books. So now in 2022, that is kind of how I got to the number 100, because For the past 2 years in a row, I have read over 100 books in each year. So that is something that I know I can achieve reading at my normal pace. That is not a goal that pushes me. I mean, here I am completing it in September, but I feel like every time I talk about how many books I have read so far this year, or anytime I see anyone talk about how many books that they've read so far in the year, there's always these comments of, oh my gosh, you read so much. How do you read 20 books in a month? I can only get around to reading 2. I'm such a slow reader. Oh my goodness, I can never read that many books in a year. Don't let that get to you, because that got to me in 2020. All of that discourse, just the pressure around it, the consumerism around it, it really got to me. And that's why I really needed to make a shift in my reading. And so I just want that to be clear, that the point of this video isn't like, oh my gosh, I'm reading 100 books a year, and if you're not, then you're a slow reader and you suck. Please don't take that as a soundbite. I literally just thought this would be fun to, complete my reading challenge and just vlog my day reading this book just for fun. But if you read 10 books in a year, if you read 20 books in a year, if you read 200 books in a year, literally who cares? I don't care. Read as much or as little as you want. Does not matter to me. I hope this does not feel pressuring to anyone else, because as you can see from me going back in the past years of my reading challenges, there were a lot of years where I set the goal of I'm gonna read 25 books in a year and I wasn't hitting that. And I was like, why am I not hitting these numbers? Like, other people are reading hundreds of books. Why can't I get to this? But my life was just busier. Like, I have not always been able to read 100 books in a year. This has literally only happened since the pandemic and I shifted to working from home. I've moved states twice since the pandemic, so I don't really have a lot of friends in my life at the moment, because I just moved to a new state where I know literally one other person and he lives with me. So I just felt like that was important to say in this video at some point. And I also thought it was kind of fun to look back at previous years and just see how my reading has changed over the years. And I anticipate that to always happen as life becomes busier, as you take different turns in your career, as you move different places, if you have children or whatever it may be. It's totally normal for a hobby to just be a hobby and to flow with the ebbs of your life. So I just wanted to let that be known. And now I'm gonna go back to a reading cult classic, and I'm gonna go ahead and just finish it and then let you know what I think of it at the end, and we will get to mark the goal complete. I have finished Cult Classic, and it was definitely an interesting book. I feel like for a rating, I'm going to end up right in the middle and giving it a 3-star, because I really thought the writing was good in this. I really enjoyed the author's voice. I liked the character and just the character development, and I really liked the concept of this, but it did feel a little bit too spread across doing different things. And I do think if it had really picked a genre and doubled down with it, I think it could have been more enjoyable for me personally. I feel like this could be really cool as a speculative thriller. I feel like it could have gone that direction. It also could have gone full-on rom-com. It also could have gone horror. It could have gone murder mystery. There's so many directions that it could have gone, and it just did a lot of different things, which sometimes I enjoy. And I do think that if I had been able to sit down with this book and really focus on it and not listen to the audio, or maybe listen to the audio but also be reading it with my eyes at the same time, it's possible that I would have enjoyed it more, because sometimes in the audiobook narration, because I was just going through it pretty quickly, and because the book is a little bit all over the place, and sometimes she's running into another ex and then it's back in the present day and there's flashbacks and there's so many different people introduced throughout the story, there would be times where I felt like I didn't get to fully appreciate the witty writing in a certain scene, because there's just so many good little one-liners in here and you really want to be able to take your time with that. So if you're going to pick this one up, I would recommend taking it slower with this one so you can really appreciate the writing, because it's one of those books that just is trying to be better written without being pretentious, which is, is anything really pretentious? I don't know. But yeah, overall had a good time with it, did enjoy it, going to give it a 3-star, but I do feel like it is going to be a little bit forgettable for me just because it did meander a little bit in subject matter / genre. And I don't know, it kind of just feels like an interesting collection of scenes that I read. So that is it for the video. And now I can go to Goodreads and complete my goal. So I'm going to mark it as read, give it 3 stars, and then I should get a celebration. Yay! Woohoo! We did it! So exciting. I love the little confetti that comes. It's so exciting. So that's a wrap on this vlog. I read a whole book in a day to complete my Goodreads challenge. My reading has just been so crazy lately. Now this is 3 days in a row, I have started and finished a book every day. So I have now read 3 full books in 3 days. I am on a reading spree right now. And I think it was probably because I was excited to get to my goal with this 100th book. You may be wondering, since it's September, if I'm gonna adjust my goal higher so that I have more to read, but I'm not. I'm just gonna leave it where it is, and I'll see how much I end up reading by the end of the year, and that'll be updated in some kind of form by the end of the year. I don't know if I'm gonna do a stats video again this year. I did that last year where I did just a collection of my reading stats. It was a shorter video, but I don't know if that's the most interesting thing to a lot of people. I feel like it's more interesting to just me, but I don't know. Maybe I'll do that at the end of the year too. But at some point, probably like my December wrap up, I will let you know what my final number ends up getting to. But I hope you had fun watching this video, watching me read a book in a day to finish my Goodreads challenge. I had fun making it. I had fun with the book. I had fun watching the confetti rain when I marked my challenge as complete. Let me know down in the comments below what your reading challenge goal is for the end of the year. Remember, no judgment towards anyone's goals. 1 book, 5 books, 100 books, 200 books, whatever is cool. But I'm just interested in knowing what kind of goal you set for yourself and where you are in your goal towards the year. And if you want to leave an emoji in the comments to let me know that you got to the end of today's video, we can do the party popper confetti emoji to match the confetti on the Goodreads challenge. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.